Great. Welcome, everyone. We are moving on with our program for today, and we are here to talk about the future of Switzerland. That sounds like a big topic.
It is.
And we have Antonia Durisch here with us. Antonia, I'll let you introduce yourself in greater detail, but in a nutshell, Antonia is a president of International Federation for Economic Development. You're also a VEF global shaper. You're a seasoned politician. You wear multiple hats and obviously bring a ton of very versatile experience. So I'm excited to dive into this topic from the perspective of leadership, innovation, and just a global political landscape. Welcome.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today.
And before we start, just for our audience online, I'm Marina. I'm an executive coach. I work with leaders on shaping a more sustainable future at a C-suite level in corporations. Very excited about this conversation today with you, Antonia. And before we dive into, what your views are, there's so many questions I want to ask you today, and I'm sure the audience too. But you have such an eclectic profile. You're wearing so many hats. You're obviously, I hope you don't mind me noticing, quite young. When I read your profile, I'm like, how is this even possible, So tell us a little bit about your journey to today, how this passion for, the mission that you're pursuing right now, how that kind of developed over time, and what have been some of the highlights on the way.
Yes, of course. I'd love quickly to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Antonia Martina Durisch, and I'm a Swiss politician and entrepreneur and the president of the International Federation for Economic Development. And the International Federation, it all started actually with a problem. I realized that women globally receive only 2% of all the VC investments. In 2024, So for me, this was a topic which is very strange because I thought we have equality up to date. And then I kind of realized maybe there is something we should do. And from that little problem, actually, it escalated. We grew tremendously in the past 12 years. And now the International Federation for Economic Development has 5 core pillars where we focus on public-private partnerships with governments, where we focus on banks and the financial sector, where we focus on corporates and SMEs, as well as philanthropists, royal families, and last but not least, startups. So you see, it all started with the idea, why don't we help women receive more funding? And now we have a global mission to empower not only women, but to empower men, women alike, everyone who deserves to be empowered and who wants to be empowered. And that's our mission.
Wow. So tell us a little bit more about the organization. Obviously, you're Swiss-based, so I've learned from you. And so, but you operate globally. So tell us about, what does that actually look like? Who is involved? Who is a part of this so far?
Yes, with pleasure. So maybe I give examples for each of those pillars so that you can understand what our daily core business looks like. So for governments, for example, we have an amazing team. Our CTO, Animesh, is leading, where we work together with encryption veterans and the Bank for International Settlements to create the first quantum-proof technology for international settlements for national banks. So what we do is we help governments to be ready for, the future, because at one point we all need to live in a post-quantum era, and therefore governments now have to step up and to prepare themselves. So that's on the government side. Then we, of course, have the banking side, which is a very passionate topic, which we'd love to talk to you if you're in the industry. Some associates are here today, which we are creating the first AI-driven underbank in Switzerland. And we really believe that we have to work together, banking veterans and young people alike. You mentioned my age. So we have an intergenerational team, a global team of ex-ministers, of very, very seasoned bankers, and of course also of young people. And we want to create a new symbiosis of banking, but also Web3 and AI. So that's another pillar. Then we have the SME part, where we realize that, especially in Europe, we have many regulations right now. We have, all the ESG topics. We have the supply chain topics of transparency, right? So we want to give those small and medium corporations tools to their hands that they don't have to do everything by themselves, because we think that is empowerment. It's all about helping those who maybe don't have the resources to create all those tools and to empower them to do things which are in the ESG frame, but they don't have to pay for the setup of all of it. And then the second last one is one which is very dear to my heart, if I'm honest. Is about philanthropy and also including royal families. We are right now living in a very difficult time globally. It means that we have a very geopolitical unstable time, probably the worst since 1946. We have over 59 ongoing conflicts, armed conflicts around the globe. So what we need right now is people and families who step up and say, yes, we want to promote peace. We want to promote prosperity. We want to promote collaboration around the world. And we want to bring parties together, and we don't want to divide. So that's like one of IFED's missions, is to create a new peace movement where people, they do something which is meaningful, and because money is everywhere, but the question is, where does that money go to do meaningful impact around the globe? And last but not least, that's also a topic which I'm very passionate about. It's the topic of startups. Especially if you're young, you don't have the networks yet to kind of get the investments necessary if you have an idea. And we all know that not everyone has the same privileges. We today are here in Switzerland, so we are very privileged by itself. But there are many young people which are ambitious, talented. In India, we have around 1 million people graduating from university each month, right? So it's incredible. Those people, they are talented. And what we now want is to create a network, because we do have those contacts, we do have the investors, we do have the infrastructure to support them. But what we kind of figured out right now is missing is, right now how it works, they are traveling around the world trying to hunt the next investor down, and they talk to people and then they don't follow up because they never learn it. And it's one big mess, right? I mean, in university, they don't teach you everything. And then they realize that they need the information from somewhere, and it's a real hassle. So we really try to take them, to teach them, how do you do it? How do you work on your self-development? How do you talk to the investors? And once they are ready, we kind of measure those KPIs in real time. We then bridge them. So that's the last pillar.
Thank you. That's really helpful, because, with all these international organizations, sometimes you read the descriptions and you're like, it sounds like you're all doing the same. Like, how do I differentiate this organization from that one? So it's really helpful to get more tangible examples of what it is that you do on a day. How big is the team? Because this sounds like a huge mission.
So it's a bit difficult to explain, because how we work is, we have the core team, we have the core team of veteran bankers, we have different divisions, we have a foundation, we have the banking part, we have the holding. So it's a big organization, as you mentioned. But then what we also have, which I didn't told you yet about, is ESG sub-projects. Okay. So it means, let me maybe tell some of those projects that you can put them into a place. Right now we have, for example, in Tanzania, circular economy projects, right? So those are not like internal projects, but those are projects under IFED collaboration, where we promote them and where we want to show to our investors and the people around the globe, hey, we have this amazing circular economy project in Tanzania, where basically they grow bamboo and then they create houses which are affordable for the people. So that's like one of the projects. And we have many of them. We have projects which try to cultivate heritage by planting pepper, so that the areas don't get destroyed and you can earn money. So it's like a bit difficult, because we have many of those projects. We have projects where we build technology hubs in major cities, where we want to, kind of increase that the youth can participate in the technological developments around the globe. So we're talking from a size like the technology hubs are around like $2 billion of investment. The ESG projects are around 30 to 50 million. So those are the ranges of our projects. So to say numbers, it's a bit difficult.
It's difficult.
Yeah, because we have many projects and we are a big institution. But what I can say is we are growing, and we are growing very fast. And in the past 12 months, we have globally reached a point where we have associates in all the different countries. Yes.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're more than an institution. It sounds like you're creating an ecosystem, essentially, right? When you describe partnerships, and that's music to my ears, because I think ecosystems are the future. It's not so much about who do you have on the payroll. It's about how do you, tap into the ecosystem to move some of these things forward. So back to your sort of like explanation of various pillars. I'm curious about all of them, but maybe starting from the last one you mentioned, which is the startup one, and how they don't quite know how to approach the investors or follow up. Obviously, that's a hot topic this week because there's a lot of them here trying to hunt investors down and find the right way to do so. And then also, the topic of follow up again is a big one. It's something that we're usually not really skilled at. Can you share, like, very briefly some of your sort of hot tips on, not to put you on the spotlight, but it's like something that perhaps, some people in the audience can take away for this week of, like, some of the things you've seen work really well, or perhaps the common mistakes that startups make when they pitch themselves to investors?
Of course, of course. I think especially right now in those geopolitical difficult times, it's all about trust.
Yeah.
We are humans, and we don't do businesses with people we don't trust. So I think before stepping in and asking for an investment, it's very important to first get to know the investor. You need to understand in which fields is investor investing, because not everyone will invest in you. So if you speak to the wrong investor, you're just losing your time.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's also all about relationship building. You should understand what kind of investor are you talking to, what is important for him, because not everyone is looking for the same kind of people. Some people do high risk investments, others are very moderate and they don't want to rush anything, right? Yeah. Some people invest fast, others take their time. So you kind of need to understand what are you looking for, and then you need to target those people. And in my personal opinion, it's easier to get a door open if you have somebody who introduces you to that person, because there comes the trust part again, right? I mean, if I come to somebody and tell, hey, I have this great person, she's young, she's ambitious, I really want you to talk to. It's completely different than if you just come and you're like, I'm one of 1,000 people and I want your money and give it to me right now, right? So it's a bit a different perspective. But then also what I think is if you really want to change the world, just start doing it and don't think of the investors. Because at one point, you will grow into something amazing and people cannot look away. So at the beginning, they will be maybe like, okay, fine, that's nothing. But once they see the progress and they see you're trying and trying and trying, at one point, people will come and they want to be part of it. So be loud, be bold, and don't be afraid. And if people say no, take it as an inspiration to become better, to ask them for feedback, and to develop, to be at the point where they are ready to invest.
I love that, and it makes me think of and I think it's a good perhaps takeaway for this week, and just as inspiration is approaching it more strategically. We're here in Davos and everyone is just rushing from one event to the other, trying to meet as many people as possible. And it often, let's be honest, feels transactional, right? It feels like you're just kind of going through your list, right? And in the end, like you say, that doesn't really quite work, right? Because at the end of the day, we need to have that minimal level of trust that sort of opens doors. And so invest the time to actually research, who you want to talk to, find a way to ideally be warmly introduced, and then have a very intentional approach rather than just pitching your idea. I think one of the things that I observe sometimes, as humans, we just assume that just because it's a great, sustainable solution, people should care and investors should care, well, it's a no-brainer. But like you said, doesn't quite work like that, right? You have to meet the investors. And by the way, any human, I believe, meet them where they are, right? Understand what matters to them in their moment. maybe a sustainable solution matters to them, maybe something else is the main driver, and this comes more as a secondary factor, right? So
Yes, and one other thing is timing. I think you can have the perfect project, but maybe the timing is not right. And maybe if I may take a link to the actual current geopolitical situation, right now we, as I mentioned before, have since 1946 one of the worst geopolitical situations. This means over 59 armed conflicts around the globe. We have many insecurities, and this also has something to do with investment behavior. So what I want to point out is that during difficult times, investors, they don't like to invest into equity, but they rather pull back and they go into gold, into state-owned bonds, like safer options, or even into hard investments like property in safe zones, right? So it's important to see like what is my timing and where am I standing. You have winners, you have losers. If you're coming right now with a tourism solution and the outlooks are right now very bad, because we have those wars, we have the instabilities, the markets are changing. Right now, people invest into electricity projects, cybersecurity or security projects, or like properties, right? So it's a bit, you have to also see the global context and kind of feel, is it the right moment to approach an investor, or maybe the timing isn't just the right.
And you mentioned before also the importance that royal families play in all of this, and royal families as ambassadors of peace, essentially. And if I understood you right, it's more than peace, ambassadors of really collaboration and cooperation, right, for joint solutions. So talk to us about that. Who in your mind is doing it right, and who is a role model in that regard? And where are we at right now, right, in terms of like the involvement of royal families as we would ideally wish?
That's a very political question, but I personally believe that we all can start in the morning by looking into the mirror and asking ourselves, what are we contributing to a better society? Because it doesn't start with royal families, it starts within ourselves, and that we tell ourselves we want to contribute to something which is bigger and which changes the world positively. But of course, to get back to your question, there are many royal families which are doing a great job, and I think you can never do more, right? I mean, you can always put in more effort and create new campaigns and create more awareness. But in the end, I think it's the job of all of us to get out of that room and think, how can we contribute in, the extent that we are able to do something good to society and the world.
And jumping a little bit from one topic to the other, but you just mentioned so many interesting things. I want to come back to the topic of AI and the fact that, you are in the process of developing, or is it already developed, the first sort of AI-driven underwriter bank? So tell us a little bit more about that. And also, where do you think, obviously AI is such a huge topic this week, so where in your mind, where are we headed with AI?
Yes, so for those, I haven't mentioned it before, I am an AI specialist. I studied that in my master's degree in my major. And the topic of AI is the hot topic of those, I would say. Everyone wants to know, where are we heading, right? And I can say one or another thing in that room, but not everyone will like it. So
that's all right.
So, let's maybe discuss a bit more in depth what is happening right now. Many people see AI only as a tool. They think it will help us to become better and to get our jobs faster done. And right now, that's also true. But we call that a data flywheel, which means AI works the way it gathers more and more data. And the more data it has, the better it becomes. And that's like an endless cycle. So those who start creating the first AI systems have a pioneer advantage to creating that technology. And what we're right now are experiencing is a very interesting time, because the growth of AI is exponential, which means maybe today in that room, people would argue with me that AGI is already here. But then maybe tomorrow it is already here. And many experts, myself included, are believing we are actually getting into an era which is changing faster than politicians and policymakers can hold up with, right? So why am I thinking that way? Several things happened in the past months, right? On one hand, for example, they did red testings and they realized that the AI tries to copy itself to save space because, it didn't feel safe anymore and it didn't want to get recalibrated. So that's a thing we should talk about openly, globally, with the politicians as well. On the other hand, there were moments where the AI started nagging around, like, why should I? I don't like doing that. And then the people had the tasks to make it shut, which also ethically, is a point where we start to talk about AGI and what is happening. We never defined where do we put AI in the society. But then again, Saudi Arabia gave Sophia, the first robot, a citizenship, right? So we had a case that Sophia received the citizenship, but nobody talks about where will those intelligent robots or machines be in society. And I think it should actually be discussed now, because at a certain point it will be already too late. And it is already right now a bit too late, in my personal opinion, because we already have autonomous agents. They are already out there. We have no regulations on them. They can develop themselves further. It's called reinforcement learning. They can do it by themselves, so they don't need any help. And of course, there are many programmers which are like, oh, it will take ages and we're not there yet. But again, it's the exponential growth. So we have to address it now, that once it's already really too late, and I think it already is the point where we have to talk about it, it doesn't get out of hand.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I think that's the beauty of Davos, and also some of the, perhaps what we would call side Davos events, is that we actually say those things that are difficult and controversial and perhaps not everyone wants to hear, but that's what we're here for. So thanks for that. Coming back to you personally, tell us a little bit more about what have some of the highlights of your journey been so far, your leadership journey.
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I've had so many highlights, I don't even know where to pick my favorite ones from. But I think the beauty is, which all of us already have experienced, is when you have something in your mind nobody can see, and then slowly, step by step, you start thinking more about it and more about it until one day you decide, hey, I think I want to try this out. And the beauty of IFED is that it's not only me, but it's an amazing team of amazing people who all one day told themselves, hey, we think we want to contribute on a global scale to an amazing project. And what we have created in the past 12 months, it's above and beyond what I could have expected when I started that journey. And I think, all those people with their personalities, their inputs, they are shaping the movement in a way where I never could have dreamed of. And I think that's the biggest beauty and, cornerstone of what I have built in the past 12 and even more months.
And what are you looking forward to in 2025?
Ooh, the 2025 question. It's difficult. Maybe may I quickly go into geopolitics and economics as well. If you analyze the global market right now, it's a bit wild. And we are all here leaders, so I think you have similar experiences as I do. 2025 will be interesting because we have a global instability which nobody really knows what will come, right? We have the new Trump administration, which will probably have very protectionistic measures in place. So we as leaders need to make sure that the supply chains, which we are kind of using, that we reorganize them maybe, because all the countries start to behave in a similar pattern and we see a certain trend. We saw the development of gold, right? Where it's in November, October last year, it was on 2,850 per ounce, I guess, and it's now heading to the $3,000 per ounce. So there is a huge development in the market shift. And one thing which for me was the most important as a leader was the 24th February 2022, when the invasion happened, when Ukraine got invaded. Because until then, if you if you compare the goals, and if you compare the U.S. treasuries, right, how much money has been there, it always had a certain correlation until the point where the invasion happened, and then like gold went up, treasuries went down, and everything has changed in the market. So for me, this has been a sign that now the times are changing. And this means that our leadership has to change as well. And this means that in 2025, we will need to readjust the way the world worked before. And I really believe that, it's a bit difficult to say what I'm looking forward to, because I think we will have very challenging times. We have, if you have a look at the unemployment rates, globally 5%, but the youth unemployment is up to 30% in the lowest class and 10% in countries which are very well developed. So for IFED, our goal is to empower the youth. Our goal is to give them jobs, to empower them to create their own companies. It will be very challenging to close that gap which we currently have. And I think also one of my top priorities will be to speak to leaders, to governments, and to create those public-private partnerships, because governments, they cannot hold the burden all by themselves on their shoulders, right? So therefore you have those partnerships with other organizations, and the organization can provide you manpower, resources, financial resources. So it will be a tough year for IFED. We will have much to do. We will have much collaborations which we need to coordinate, and I think it will not be an easy year, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's why you're here, right? That's why you wanted to start it in the first place, I guess, right?
Exactly.
There is a need, a huge need in the market. And
absolutely.
So thank you for doing what you do. And I want to give the last few minutes to the audience. Any questions you have for Antonia? Yeah.
Thank you very much for your insights. Maybe one question about the future of Switzerland. Could you answer this in a nutshell? Thank you.
Yes. So geopolitically speaking, I think Switzerland right now has difficulties, but also we can look forward to certain things. One is with the Swiss franc right now, and I would say the dollar, which is losing value, and also the huge debts which America is right now facing. I think it's a chance for us. So the Swiss franc will be stabilized, but at the same time, we are an export country. It will be difficult for us as well. Then also, if we look from an entrepreneurship perspective, I think we have very much chances, because we have many well-educated people in here, which we can onboard into our ecosystem, our infrastructure. And our goal will be in the next few years to make Switzerland a place where you can scale up. Because right now, Switzerland is very difficult for startups and to scale up here. So what happens is most of our good companies, they get attracted from US investors, Silicon Valley, or even other markets. So in a nutshell, if you want to hear the answer in one sentence, I think the Swiss franc will be very stable. It will be a haven also for investments. I think export-wise, it will be difficult for our companies here, but I think we have big chances as well in collaborating and creating a better economy in the next few years.
I'm here to challenge people, and I'm here to challenge AI.
Let's do it.
And the limit of AI is the way the AI developer thinks. So I'm here and I can prove that every AI can be tricked by the user if he knows how an AI engineer thinks.
Is it a question or?
So no, the question for me is, how do you make sure an AI is secure and cannot be tricked?
That's a very difficult question. Let me think maybe for a second or two. So your question is, how can we make sure that AI doesn't get out of hand? Is that the question, right?
The thing is, if I know how an AI engineer thinks and I know his limitations in thinking, I can trick the AI system for better outcome.
Well, the problem which I see with AI is that we do not teach it what it's learning. It's reinforcement learning, right? So what we create is a structure where basically we empower the system to learn, right now with our data. And okay, fair enough, they are right now creating synthetic data because they are coming to limits, right, to training. But I personally believe that at one point it will develop itself a way that we cannot understand, because right now it's already very smart. We could argue if it's already passed the Turing test or not, right? But how do you ensure that you can control something that is smarter than you?
How do you think it's smarter? Maybe because it was human-made, and I know how the IDL thinks. So my point is that, for example, I have cases I can prove that dynamic pricing can be fooled. So if I know how the IDL was thinking in the business model, I can reverse engineer, and then I can get the rental car cheaper than expected just because I know I'm going to book it first from Germany to Switzerland and then back, and I'm get all the discounts and I get a free car.
I think it's a bit difficult to answer the question because AI is not only GPT. Many people think first of GPT and the things that they are using, but AI has 8 different use cases, right? You have hyper-personalization, you have also computer vision and all those kind of things. So I think the question is a bit too general, like to be answered directly. But what I can answer you is my personal opinion. And my opinion is that at a certain point, if it will be trained in a way where we do not have to label anything, and we are already there, it's called, reinforcement learning, you use agents, they train themselves, right? At that point, we are giving the control out of the hand to the machine. And I think at that point, it will be not easy to control what is happening. And we had use cases, right? I mean, we had use cases, I think it was Facebook, wasn't it? Where they created to have several AIs talk to each other, and suddenly a new language was invented and they couldn't follow anymore. So things happen very fast. Yeah, I mean, at a certain stage is not an issue. You know, if we control the environments, it's not an issue. But what I try to point out is once the AI gets into the real world, and that has happened right now. So we had AI agents, they have received 8 million, how much was it? They received tremendous amounts of money from people. They set up their own PayPal accounts, they received the money, and now they are hiring humans to do tasks which they cannot do. That is right now happening, right? So we have to, I mean, are there other politicians in that room? Probably not, right? So, I mean, I'm a politician, and I just understand that in politics, that topic hasn't came through. No. We haven't discussed that yet in many places. Maybe at some places they have discussed it, but from my experience, it's a topic which is evolving so fast that people don't really catch up with it, right? And that's the point where I think we have to discuss, like openly. And I would be very interested if that gets live streamed or something, what people write into the comment section, because I really want to hear their opinion on that topic.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Antonia. Thanks, everyone. And go ahead.
The last question.
I think we need to move on with the programming, but maybe you can catch Antonia in the lobby. She'll stick around for a second.
Up to you.
Yeah, she will be here for any remaining questions. I think we need to move on with the program, but thank you so much for today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.